Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow, the in-pit lane after party. Although it's not an after party, it's instead sort of an instead of party this week. We we only found out yesterday that apparently there's something called Easter happening at the moment, and as a result of Easter, there's something called a mass. I don't know what it's a mass of what, I don't know, but it's something called a mass, and because of this mass, we're not on Channel 31 tonight, so we're here not after, but instead of. If you happen to be the sort of person who wants to watch a mass, then Channel 31 right now has a mass. In fact, over the weekend, there's a mass of masses. There's so many masses that you can fill a room with them. So welcome to the program, and we're going to talk about an interesting weekend. Formula One's finally back. Moto Gp is back. We've got the Bathurst 6 Hour coming up this weekend. Earlier in the week, it was a little bit unsure whether we were going to get it or not, but apparently we are. We are going to get the Bathurst 6 Hour this week. So so the Bathurst 6 Hour is happening, and we'll be bringing you that a little bit of talk about that a little bit later on. But as you can see, the crew have arrived. There we've got Chris and Pete and Stuart and Doc, and let's start with Formula One. And first of all, before we go through, we'll sort of work our way through all the different teams and find out. But what did everybody think of the opening race of the Formula One season? Are we all enthusiastic and thrilled that it's back?
3 thumbs up.
Didn't watch it.
I thought it was good. I mean, I think there'd be very nervous people at the Australian Grand Prix office because that was the opening race. It had overtaking. It had everything that you would want in the Grand Prix. So I think there'd be very nervous people in the Australian Grand Prix office. And Lewis Hamilton, yes, we tipped it, but Lewis Hamilton didn't have it all his own way. And, of course, the Hasses went off on the first turn, both of them on the first turn. So there must be something about that first turn in Hasses. But something else that was interesting that Martin Brundle said is that because they've got the dual thing with the Aston Martin and the Mercedes safety car, he said we should see a lot more of the safety car, which does concern me a bit.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment, wasn't it? Because I picked that one up as well. Because when he said, he was being very cynical there and sort of saying that, in order to maximise the investment of both companies in Formula One and the sponsorship of the safety cars, that we might see he was sort of inferring that the safety car might be brought out on occasions that it isn't really warranted in order to make sure that the safety car puts in an appearance.
Yeah. So there might be lots more debris on the track.
Or is that a marketing exercise?
Too many marbles.
It'll become like NASCAR. It'll be a competition caution or a debris yellow or something like that. So in order to get I must say that the new safety car, the Aston Martin, looks very good, especially under those lights. That's going to be the interesting thing, as you say, Pete, with the opening round of the series at Bahrain under lights in a more European friendly time zone. Be interesting to see what the television ratings are, because the Australian Grand Prix is one of the least watched Formula One Grand Prix for the year, because it comes on at a very bad time for people in Europe, where the biggest audience is. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see whether if they have a look at it and go, do we really want to keep having the opening round in Australia, because it might be a much stronger. They might find us a much stronger debut for the thing.
And prior
it
to
might
the works
be
going on
a
at the
better
moment,
idea to have the finale here. It'd rate better if it was the finale.
Well, certainly that was the case with Adelaide. I mean, the problem with having the finale is often you've got a dead rubber. I mean, and there. But I mean, the teams loved it when it was the final round in Adelaide because they come all the way to Australia, and then and at the end of the day, instead of having to like jump in, pack up, and get the hell out and move to the next round within like overnight, they could say, okay, well we can spend another week or so in Australia. We can have a bit of a holiday, and we can spend 10 days, 14 days here in Australia in the
well, for a lot of them, it'd be 2 days of partying first because Australia's good to party at as well. So it's not any country. There's a lot of countries, and then have that couple of weeks holiday, like you're saying, Brett. So it was a lot of. We've got a lot of superstars from around the world in lots of different lifestyles that are in Australia, enjoying our great continent at the present time because it's one of the best places to be in the world, safest.
Yeah, written, spoken, authorised by Doc. But
I was going to say I must have paid the bills this week. The money, the postal service is working by the look. Thanks, KP. He's one of my. He's actually he did a lot of radio work with me and mentored me back in the early days when we were commentating VFL. So he's a great man. He's very bashful, but he is media savvy, Mr. Kane Pollard. Hello, KP.
Yes, hello, Kane. How are you? Okay, let's have a look at the at Formula One, and we'll go through the teams and sort of work our way back and get a picture from Pete and all and from the rest of you guys about how people went. Let's start at the bottom. Ferrari. Haas said before the race was on that the season was on. They'd basically written off this season as it was. I mean, is Mazepin going to become the Pastor Maldonado for a new era? Is he going to be the race that launched 1,000 memes?
Oh, I guess got 1,000 chuckles from all of us. Oh, Pastor Marinara.
I mean, Mazepin wasn't. He wasn't flavour of the month with a lot of people to begin with because of his past history. I mean, and if he's going to keep going off I mean, I suppose it's a bit cruel. I mean, okay, your first race, first corner, difficult conditions. People crash on the first corner all the time. Often more experienced people than him. Yes, he did it by himself, but it's not. It shouldn't be a hanging offence. But there was certainly a certain feeling in the voice of the commentators and in the reporters in terms of a bit of joy almost that he, it's like, we told you that he was, he wasn't worthwhile.
Oh, come on, that sounds like a bit of that's a traditional Formula One bloody ear bashing. Look, the only thing is, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes if you were going to be invoiced for every accident you cause and how much carbon fibre is going to be left on the track.
The invoice has been paid in full many times over. That's the only reason he is there is because Daddy is absolutely filthy rich.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. You were saying before, if they had a safety car because there was debris on the track, well, yeah, he's the carbon fibre that'd be swept up by the sweepers. He'd certainly be able to cover the cost of him. But yeah, let's give him a few races. I mean, yeah, but he's not going on with good. You're right, Brett. He's not going in with good form there. I mean, I think we did mention him last year, didn't on FCY, didn't we? I think we put his name up, didn't we, guys?
Yeah, he got into a bit of trouble last year.
I found that post where he was in the car, wasn't it? I think
in the car, yes, with his friend, his very good friend.
Yeah, and the female friend too. She said she didn't take offence to his comments. That's right.
Yeah, so let's see how he goes. But he could be an interesting chap to follow through the year. Pete, what do you think of the performance of Mick Schumacher? He had his own problems as well.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, it is like you say, Haas is concentrating on next year rather than this year. So considering that, he did all right. I mean, he was there at the end. So he did all right. The one that stood out was Tsunoda. He did really well. Tauri,
Sonoda has already got cult hero written all over him. I think. I mean, he's got that touch almost of, I mean, it's a big statement. I'm not comparing him. Don't think, don't start complaining and carrying on. I'm not comparing him like for like and all that, but just in terms of the sort of buzz that he gives you and the buzz that he seems to be creating around the world at the moment, he's got a touch of the Gilles Villeneuve about him. It's like, this guy's got no fear. This guy's,
Stuart and I are nodding because we're old school. Look at the studio. Yeah, we're both nodding here.
Yeah, so get there. What about
the Villeneuve? Actually, the correct Villeneuve reference was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I mean,
but just a reminder, going back to Haas, there is a rule in both filmmaking and Formula One. The way to end up with a small fortune in Formula One is to start with a large one. So if they run out of money, a kid's getting dropped.
Same as yachting.
Yeah. Same with horses as well too. Horses as well. I can go there.
Pete, what about?
So when you see this snark reference, that's what it's about.
Pete, what about? You were one of the people, and a lot of people felt that Williams would improve quite a bit this year. But judging on the performance on the weekend, once again, George Russell did very well in qualifying. What about their performance on the weekend?
Well, they didn't really improve.
Oh, you're going to shelve your comment, are you, Peter? Hey.
They didn't really improve. The surprise packet was Ferrari. They because I thought it was just platitudes. Oh yes, we've fixed the engine problems but they did well. But yeah, Williams didn't do as well as I thought they would.
One of the Ferrari teams that actually did quite well was Alfa Romeo. I thought they showed a lot of potential. I mean, they're still down in seventh place and they actually finished behind Aston Martin. But at times they were looking. They had a few problems, but when they were sort of switched on, they were really switched on. They were looking quite good. And Kimi is, whatever you say about Kimi, he's still a very, very good driver.
Yeah.
Just mentioning about Ferrari, I think it's already been said, and it's pretty much going by the wayside now, and everyone's accepting the fact. But you put Charlie Leclerc in a decent in the right team and right car in the next few years, he's a world champion in the making if Lewis isn't racing around in those four wheels. So it's just a given at some stage. It's all gone quiet for a while now since his debut because he was impressive right from the start, but he's just got to bide his time and get in the right place at the right time in the car. Hopefully he's not one of those ones like a Ricardo and that may never ever become a world champion because he's in the wrong team. Like, look at, for example, if say Max and Daniel were still best of mates, or at least better mates than they were when they were racing together, he could be in a potential world champion car as well too if he hasn't swapped teams twice in between. So it's I think they all know that. Look at Alonso; he's still out there, like you were saying. Kimi as well. He's basically not on the pace, but if he was in the right car, he could be threatening someone out there.
Yeah, Alonso. I mean, once again, proved that he's a very obviously a very mature driver. He's a very smart driver, and he will improve that team as well. I mean, he did to Toyota. I mean, in the World Endurance Championship, they will, the Toyota people will tell you that he contributed an awful lot to to their improvement and ultimately those wins at Le Mans because he was very hands-on and had a very smart brain in terms of getting the best out of the team and the best out of the car. So I think it was a really encouraging start for Alpine and for Alonso. The one that sort of worries me a little bit was the performance of Aston Martin, and not so. I mean, Lance Stroll was around the same point as he always is, but I was really worried. And some of the comments coming out of Sebastian Vettel's mouth after the race and during the indicated to me that this is a guy who already is going, oh, geez, have I done the right thing? Have I hooked up 1 year too many? What do you think, Pete?
Suck it up.
Yeah, he's not happy. uh, and yeah, I don't know whether he's thinking, have I made the right decision? I'm wondering whether he's, some people age differently. Some people reach their peak differently than others, and I wonder whether he's reached his peak and he's tapering off a bit.
Yeah, well, I think
Hang on. That implies that he had a peak.
Well,
he did.
He certainly did. I mean, he was a dominant driver. He was a world champion, a couple of times world champion.
Yeah, but only when he was starting from the front, never when he was passing, and only when he was in a good car or a car that would be on the front row of the grid anyway.
He passed
sorry, Vettel is not a good driver.
Yeah, that is one of the criticisms of him. I've heard that sort of put there a long time. I think he's a good driver. I think that he's definitely a front runner. I think that
he's only a front runner from the start or from the front. The moment you put him from starting from the back, he crashes out or he tosses a tanty.
You beat me there, Stuart. I was going to correct you. He's a front runner from the front. You corrected yourself immediately. I have serious doubts if you put him in a medium at the pack, middle of the pack car, because obviously he's gone from top to bottom now. And when I say Ferrari, they weren't at the top of their game when he pulled the pin with them either. But if you put him in a medium-sized car in an opportunistic race style like we saw on the weekend, where we discussed at the start of this F1 conversation, where Pete even said if you're driving an Olympic down there at Albert Park right now, there's limited passing opportunities because the track's so thin and the turns are so engineered that you can't get past. You have a larger size track with sweeping bends, sweeping turns, you can cut each other up. You put Vettel in the middle of the pack car, in the middle of the pack in qualifying, and you watch him either stay still or go backwards. He does not have
a carbon fiber shower all over the racetrack.
He doesn't, or that, because he'll just basically jump on other people and take everyone else out, including himself, without a care in the world. But he is not a fighting driver. There are drivers out there that will absolutely wring the neck out of their controlled tyre and car and do the best and go back into the team, and they can hang their head high and they'll get the pat on the back and say, "Well done, guys, you did us proud. Thanks, great drive." And they might have come 5th or 7th. Sebastian Vettel, I don't think, has that following.
Let's have a look at our own Dan Ricciardo. Out-qualified Lando Norris, which continues that tradition of out-qualifying his teammates. So that was a good sign. But he did go backwards in the race, had some problems, was run into by Pierre Gasly, and there was some underfloor damage. And the cars are very, very susceptible and very to even the slightest amount of underfloor damage at the moment, because that's where they're getting a huge slab of that downforce. What do you think, Pete? How would you rate Dan Ricciardo's debut for McLaren?
I think he did reasonably well. He tends to qualify where he qualified and come up the order when he doesn't have damage, and when things go his way, he tends to come up the order. So, barring the damage, I think it shows promise.
It was certainly good for McLaren as a whole. I mean, Lando Norris with that with his position with the 4th showed that they've definitely improved. We knew they'd improve with the Mercedes engine, and they definitely, there's no doubt they definitely have. And there's also no doubt that that Norris is a genuine talent as well. He's a prodigy, and he's someone that like if you look at a best case scenario and you think years to come, sort of Verstappen versus Norris versus Russell versus there's a few there's a few good years of potential good racing ahead of us and good rivalries.
Oh, there's some room in the field for Mazepin there. Someone's got to take someone out every race.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long Mr. Mazepin is going. Even at some stage, I mean, he could turn out like, the thing is, like, people compare him with Lance Stroll. Stroll came in and obviously bought the bought the drive, and Daddy's bought the team and all the rest of it. However, Lance Stroll actually can drive, and even before he got into Formula One, he won the Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand. That's no amount of money is going to sort of buy him that. He was up against a lot of very talented young drivers, and he won that. So he wasn't without ability, and I think he's done very well. Slow start, so perhaps Mazepin. By the time this time next year, we might be turning around and going, "Oh boy, that Mazepin, he's done. He done well. He's showed everybody." But
you can usually judge that by the cross car promotion that you usually get. So, not saying you can jump into from a minor team into a Ferrari like Mr. Leclerc did with his pedigree, but when they go from a smaller size team budget to a larger one, and with the potential, everyone who critiques the category in Formula One saying, "Oh, look, he's batting above his weight here. He can certainly drive a better car and get more out of it." Well, then that they're going to get the opportunity to go on and go further. So if they're getting touted in 12 months' time, they should be getting a better car by the aficionados of Formula One that commentate the sport. Well, then I'll stand corrected. I'll apologise on the spot.
Pete, what about Ferrari? What about Red Bull? Max Verstappen, he did the right thing sort of technically and moved aside when he should have. And we'll talk about the track limits thing in a moment, but just in terms of just looking at the performance of the team, there were some problems for the teammate. But he recovered and drove very well, came back through the pack. So what do you think?
Well, if Sergio didn't have those problems, I think he would be an ideal number two. Like, I think in future races, if he doesn't have those sort of problems, he'll be the ideal number two. He'll be able to ride shotgun with Max.
Yeah, and I think unlike what we were talking about with Sebastian Vettel, I think the thing that we know with Perez is that he is a fighter. He's someone who we've seen him carve his way through the field in the past, and he will get the elbows out, and he could be a really good foil for Max, because I think Max, a bit like as we said with Vettel, I think Max is a bit of a front runner too, and I think we saw that when he did succeed that position, he dropped off the pace. He'd basically he'd run hard, he'd fried his rear tires, he got a little bit sideways after he gave the position back, and from then on, if you looked at it, you thought, oh well, it's only a matter of time. Okay, he caught up, so he passed so easy. Then he's come back and he's given up the position. You thought it's a matter of time. They'll get to the next DRS zone. He'll blast past again, and that's it. The race is his. Didn't happen like that. It was
a bit of bottom lip dropping there. Brett?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Pete, what do you think? What about Red Bull as a whole? It looks like they are the genuine article, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. They definitely. I think it's going to be a battle between Red Bull and Mercedes this year, predominantly. I'm not sure that there was a bottom lip drop. He did fry his tyres, and whether that's a mistake or not, I don't know. But I certainly think after he fought back, after he gave the spot back, but he just couldn't, because he fried his tyres, he couldn't overtake him, but he was certainly fighting, I think, whereas Sebastian Vettel...
Do you think, Peter, if he... I agree with to a certain extent he was fighting, but do you think it'd be more of a psychological advantage throughout the season, not just withstanding it in one race, if he had to put more pressure on right to the split second that flag dropped and just gave Lewis that message that I'm right on your clacker here in this race. If it's not the next race, it's the race after that. If it's the race after that, I'm here, I'm going to get you, and I'm going to do... Do you think that would be more of a psychological... If he had to actually just tried that little bit harder there in those last lap or two and just rode that diffuser of Hamilton's and said, right, I'm here. And that just sort of tells you, mate, and it's just, I'm talking about respectable sportsmanship rivalry here. I am at you next race. Don't look in your shadow because I'm going to be right on your case. So I just think I agree with Brett to a certain extent. Sometimes you can try that little bit harder, and that little psychological advantage just gives them something to think about for the rest of that day and for the next race and so forth. Even if you're not beating him, you're right on their case.
I think the thing that he did, which was good. I mean, that he did do as he was told. He did give the position straight back. I mean, there's been some criticism from some people. I mean, Alan Jones basically said he should have just said, worry about it afterwards. If they want to penalise me, if they want to give me 5, 10, 30 seconds, whatever. But as far as Alan was sort of saying, if he'd have got that, that instruction, he would have said, no, you can stick that. I earned that bloody pass, and he's been going over those track limits all damn race, and there's been no problem. So I just took the same line that he's been taking.
Well, he did actually say that, but he said, by the same token, he said, because they were all saying he should have waited and gone to the start of the next DRS zone and overtaken him there and then taken him back. But he said, to his credit, he said, that wouldn't have been right. That wouldn't have been, because it would have been an easy pass. So it was better that I did it then rather than at the next DRS zone. But he did say after the race, you should have just let me have it, and I would have gained 5 seconds on him. But there was no guarantee that the penalty would be 5 seconds. It could be more. So you just don't know.
They've got to clear up that track limits nonsense. I mean, because there was so much confusion, although it was fairly clear. I mean, if you have a look at the supplementary regulations for that particular meeting, they did say, during qualifying, we're going to be tough on it and all that, but during the race, we're not going to be over the top unless you use that position to gain a position. If you use that line to actually get an unfair advantage to pass somebody, then yes, we will get you to give that back. And I don't think that's fair. I think it should be straightforward. The white line is the white line. If you go outside the white line, it's like, Doc, you umpire football. It's a bit like saying, it's a bit like sort of, you get the AFL sends you a directive saying, hey, listen, first and second quarter, we're not going to worry too much. Anything on the sort of, in the forward pocket or something, if it's a little bit over, just ignore it. It'll be, it'll only be if they score a match-winning goal, then we can go back and, the boundary line's the boundary line.
10-second comment. I agree with you totally. We've got this standing on the mark rule this year. If you let them get one guy take one step and then another guy take another step, you're going to get absolutely slammed by every participant that's competing on the field that day, and you'd also the spectators. And that's exactly what's going to happen in Formula One. To my understanding, I haven't looked at the replay of it, but I have watched the race. Mad Max had all 4 wheels completely off the track, cutting the corner, going right through. And as you just said, Brett, he's crossed that white line. Not just with 1 wheel, not 2, but 4 wheels have gone completely across, and he gained an advantage by not cornering as much to get in front of Hamilton. But agree with what Pete said, and it's been obviously well documented since. Do it on the straight when you're going to give it back to it, and you've got less advantage to lose, that you can sit right on there under the diffuser to try and make the most of the opportunity to maybe execute another pass. So, yeah, but it's all in the head of the moment. I'm sure Max has probably learnt from that. That would have been straight away in his debriefing. I mean, they sit in the truck straight afterwards, don't they, at the back, and they at least do the immediate problems or the opportunities that could have happened during the race. So, and of course, they do a full team briefing later on in the next couple of days, and they go through every single part of the race with the driver. It's just standard issue these days.
Yeah, I mean everybody will do a debrief, including Michael Massey and his team in race control, and I hope they do have a look at it and just basically get rid of any confusion over that, because as I said, I really can't see why at any stage they should say that you can go over the track limits and not have it face any penalty. I mean the track limits are the track limits. Leave it at that. And,
well, if everyone did that in supercars, you'd go down Bathurst and cut through Conrod Straight, just go across the kitty liquor and come and go at the front straight and win the race, couldn't you?
Well, there was the famous one many years ago with Alan Grice, who came down Conrod Straight, and instead of got to the bottom corner, and instead of turning to the left, actually turned to the right, and everyone thought, "What the is he doing?" And what he decided, it was a qualifying lap, and he decided that if I turn, instead of just turning off off Conrod Straight and then taking if I turn to the right and head towards the town, I can do a U-turn and get basically a long run, straight run.
That's right.
Yes, to hit that. They cut down on that.
Yeah, because you hit
coming back from Bathurst Township, you come through the corner at much higher speed, so you start your lap at a higher speed.
Finish line.
There is a supercut of all the times that Lewis ran off the track in that same corner, and it's something like 26 or 29 times within the race. So, that's gaining an advantage in my book. That's off the track.
Mercedes were warned not to do it, and then so they because originally they said, okay, Lewis is doing it, so you can do it, Max. But then Mercedes got warned not to do it, and then they told Max not to do it anymore prior to that overtake.
Rules on the run.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the thing. We just point out, Russell's pointing out, and Paul's got something underneath the sprint car. The famous Easter Trail is on this weekend coming up. It starts tomorrow night at Avalon Raceway, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for the weather. I think that the weather for the weekend is at least for tomorrow night is pretty good. So as Paul is saying there that. It's more spectators in the original three, so they're going to be allowed to have more spectators in at Avalon tomorrow, and then they move down to places like Warrnambool and Mount Gambier and the rest. Also, of course, coming up this weekend, and I was hoping to head up to Bathurst, and because of a whole bunch of reasons, as I said last week, both the dreaded lurgies that I'm still sort of suffering a bit of now. But more particularly the cost and the time involved. But Bathurst this weekend has the potential to be fantastic entertainment, and it will be streamed on 7 Plus, which is the Channel 7 streaming service. It will also be on 7 Mate, but not the whole thing. The 6 hour race itself will be streamed live on 7 Mate. But if you want to see pretty much everything that happens, they've got TCR. Trans Am 2 TA2 is going to be there as well. Of course, the Australian GT Championship. Shane Van Gisbergen back in the GT Championship in the Mercedes, and I think they've got about 20 cars. So the cars we would have seen at the Bathurst 12 Hours. It'll be interesting to see them in more sort of a sprint format. What sort of lap times they're going to run over the weekend. There was some doubt about the meeting because of the whole Queensland situation, but thankfully that seems to have died down now. So we will have racing. There will be racing from.
I wonder what tyres they're going to be using, whether it's a controlled tyre or whether it's a bit more open slather like the 12 hour up there.
Oh no, they're a control tyre in the all the GT now, because they're under the Stefan SRO regulations. They're pretty much running the same tyres all over the world now. So unfortunately, the tyre walk, days of the tyre walk is
but just wondering is obviously you just said we're in a sprint format. I wonder what they're going to churn out at. As long as they've got some decent pours underneath.
Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for your support there. We appreciate it. Yeah, Paul, Motorsport TV doing their best. Yeah, and the production company for as with all the Australian Racing Group meetings will be AVE, who do Speed Week on SBS. So they've got lots of experience, but it's not the bells, as we said after the Phillip Island round. It's not all the bells and whistles that you get with a full-on supercar production, because they just don't have that sort of budget. And we've said this ourselves with stuff that we do out on location. It's now, oh, why don't you cover this, and why don't you have that, and why don't you, every little thing you do in a television production costs money. So, the graphics cost money, the music costs money, the extra cameras cost money, drones cost, everything costs money. So obviously they want to save in this day and age. They want to save some money, and covering a race at Bathurst has got to be one of the hardest gigs around, because that is. It's not like taking a few cameras out to Winton and sticking a couple of cameras out on each corner.
Over 6 k's of track to find some,
and not flat track. I mean, you're going up the side of a bloody great mountain. There's lots of trees everywhere that get in the road. There's lots of There's all sorts of problems you have in being able to get good signal out there and putting on. So whatever you get on the weekend, I mean, be grateful that we're getting some coverage and we can sit down and watch it. Unfortunately, the one thing that we don't have this year that we've had in the last few years, I only sort of discovered this today, is we won't have the commentary of John Hindhoff and the team from Radio Show Limited and Radio Le Mans. We've had John has done the last couple of 6 hours as well as the 12 hours. Also Shay Adam and those who usually come in and join the team, and unfortunately because of the current situation, and I think because of some internal politics with Channel 7 and that they've unfortunately they're not John and the team won't be doing anything, because they could have covered it. John could have covered it from England as he did with the Sebring 12 hour. I mean, you really wouldn't have known. I mean, John was in England. I think Jeremy Shaw was on the west coast of America, and Shay Adam was. I don't know whether Shay was in Florida or up at Canada. She could have been either way, but you'd have never known it. I mean, they did a fantastic job, and they've got that down to a fine art now. Speaking
of a little bit of controversy, still sporting and motor racing related, before we get on to the big subjects, we've also got Moto Gp to get past. Stewart's attendance fee costs money as well. Absolutely, Paul.
That's a shoot. That's a shoot.
I wish if you saw.
Everyone's laughing. I wonder why. I did see briefly on an excellent article because it was done in depth, and its details are Brett and I.
My precious.
Stuart's patting his.
Put the toys away. Stuart. Put the toys.
That's one
this
of the
one
new
has
old
autofocus
ones.
that can track race cars.
You did say you were going to get that. I know. We'll have to talk about that off air.
By the way, before we go any further, because this is important, as you can see, Stuart has a camera. In fact, he has several cameras. I have several cameras. Chris has got a camera. We have lots of cameras. We have wonderful little magic boxes that allow us to take these cameras and spread them to the world instantly, live.
And
if you would like us to do that for you, we can do it. What we don't have is money. So please contact us.
And you have friends that operate your cameras as well too, Brett. So that way you can do
if they get paid. Yes. So that's one of the things. But yes, we've got all that gear, and at the moment it's not doing much at all. Somebody said to me today that it's like oh, why don't you get out and do more of this and more of that? And I said, well, why don't you pay us some money? And it's like, it takes bloody money. This is all you people think about. Yeah, that's all we think about because we don't have any.
Well, actually, let's just for a moment give people a reference. That's an Adamus Shogun recorder that records the vision from the cameras or records the vision from the computer. Those things were $2,400 brand new. And it's a screen, a computer, and a hard drive. You pay for any sort of decent DSLR that can record video out to one of those, you're looking at $2,500 upwards. The camera I held up a minute ago when it was brand new was $6,500. So anybody who spends, say, $32,000 on tires for a weekend and then says, "Oh, we don't have enough money to pay for a crew," bullshit. What?
Excuse me. Bless you, Stuart. Bless you, my dear chap. It's mass.
Yeah.
It's mass. No, I'm just we're talking mass. I totally agree. Something very important though that has come up during the week. I'm not sure if everyone has known to it, but it's obviously been circling like buzzards for years and years and years. The City Council makes a decision on Sandown Raceway again on April 14th of this month. Because the Melbourne Racing Club, who owns Flemington, they own Caulfield, they own Sandown, is taking the next step to get it the upgrade for approval for sale down the track. Now, we know Supercars has a 5-year deal. We know over this and so forth. There are races for the horse GGs about once a month, etc., but they're getting it changed, and on April 14th, they make another decision for the demise of Sandown into a residential zone. So keep posted. They also, in that article you probably read, Richie, that you just said you saw, they made reference to something that Brett and I heavily investigated when Podium 1 took it on, is they bought up the Pakenham Motorsport Complex. It's going to be developed out here as well too, in the southeast of Melbourne. So, look, we could talk on for hours and hours about this. We can't do about that. Pizzas help, thanks, Paul. But pizzas do help. It fills the tummy, but it just doesn't fill. It only fills it temporarily. It's still got to pay the bills though. But yeah,
and pizzas cost money. I point out.
Yeah, they do. Even the Domino's $5 ones cost $5. Did you know that? So, yeah, Sandown, another decision looms again. Melbourne Racing Club, I just want to make the bigger point that I didn't know how much it was leaking, is saying it's costing them, losing them $5 million. Was it monthly or quarterly or whatever it is? So they're leaking money. So there you go. They want to sell it. It's a liability for them, unfortunately.
The interesting thing will be what they will get. It's a bit of a it's a bit of a sort of thrown kite flying exercise at the moment, or an ambit claim from the because at the moment they're saying they want 7,500 units there, and quite rightly the Dandenong City Council are looking at it and going, no, that 7,500 people in that smaller space with the facilities that are out there at the moment, with the traffic access of that area, which is bad enough at the best of times. 7,500. We saw what happened at AFL Park. AFL Park is an unmitigated disaster. It's a middle-class slum. It is an appalling traffic hazard. It creates major traffic jams in and out every bloody morning. It is just it's obscene what they did out there with that area, and you would not want to see that happen. The interesting thing is, I think there's a couple of things. I don't know whether it can be saved, but I think in terms of kite flying, there's two things that the city of Greater Dandenong have finally realised, and it's taken them sort of 50 years to realise it. They realise that it is an asset, because having lost AFL Park, the councils out here and the community out here realise what they've lost. And I think that the council, particularly the mayor at the moment, the mayor is saying, she's saying, I would like to keep Sandown. And if you can't keep Sandown, we need an alternative. Somebody's got to provide us with an alternative, whether it's horse racing, car racing, football, soccer, whatever it is. This area needs a few major facilities, because pretty much everything is closed down, and Sandown's all that's left. When Sandown goes, that's it. In terms of major sporting facilities that bring people into the area, that's it. It's finished. So
you're right. When they thawed out Arctic Park, it certainly didn't turn into an oasis, did it? No,
it was in a rain belt to begin with. It's still in the damn rain belt. It's just people live there now. And I don't know if you ever want to feel really depressed, just go for a drive around. Just go for a drive around there. and have a look. It's like Beirut with delusions of grandeur.
Without the, you'd think there was bombing, but there's not. Anyway.
It's a shot, yeah. So I don't think, I'm sure it's going to be turned into houses, but I don't think it's going to happen for at least another 5 or 10 years. Because I think they'll be arguing about this for quite some time.
Oh yeah, of course.
They saw the plans the other day, and they said 7,500 houses is ridiculous.
Yeah,
nuts. Go and buy in Docklands. There's a lot of free apartments in Docklands that have come up now because of what's going on in the CBD, with no one wanting to live there anymore because because all the offices are empty too. So there's plenty of space that they could redesign.
Yes.
There is. So get smart. Developers, be smart and change your offices into apartments. It's been done before. Do it again.
Yeah, they're going to have to, because the way people have worked is they, as Paul is saying, they've got the train station, all the rest of it, but the train station is still fairly small. They've done a major redevelopment of Springvale, but that whole area is pretty much packed out in terms of. Try to go down there. I do a lot of shopping, and a lot of my shopping I do at Springvale. And boy, you try and get parking there any Saturday or Sunday, it's a nightmare. It's like it'd be easier to get parking in the city than it is sometimes, particularly on a Sunday. Go to Springvale on a Sunday and try and get a parking spot and see how you'll be driving around for quite some time, because it is just overcrowded, and have that many other. It's also, when you look at it, it's also it's very much in an industrial area. It's there's a cemetery on one side. There's the shooting range. There's a few factories still around. The track is sort of the buffer, and there's all that. There's all the lake, and the lake is basically flood overflow. So, and it has flooded in that area quite a bit. So I don't know what they're going to do with the lake in terms of. If they think they're getting rid of that without any consequences, they might be in for a bit of a surprise.
That'll be insurance.
Well, I read somewhere it was a swamp many years ago.
Shall I mention about the other Premier class briefly, Brett?
Yeah, let's talk about Moto Gp. Boy, I tell you what, you wouldn't be taking on a Ducati at the start line Grand Prix, would you?
Yeah, I wonder if they've got that whole shot device ready for public approval and for sale, and at a Premier price. I wouldn't mind one for my one. I think it'd be fitted retro to mine right now. But yeah, it's quite. But not only that, new whichever you want to pronounce it, Qatar, 363 kilometers an hour. Anyone been around that sort of speed any of their life when they're not inside an aeroplane?
Only in an aeroplane, yeah.
Damn quick if you're on 2 wheels of bikes. They set a new record in qualifying and in practice. They couldn't do it in the race, unfortunately, the Ducatis, but they had a bit of a crosswind, so that's why they could have been more dominant in the race itself. However, they'll look out for the long tracks later on in the season, and if there's no crosswinds, they can certainly hit their straps. The other teams will be learning to slipstream like they're back in Moto 3 days all over again. But what a magnificent venue. Doesn't Qatar look so good on the lights? Don't you wish you could have Formula One and, NASCAR do a little bit overseas in the US and etc. Just when they shine those pretty little magnificent men in their flying machines on the grounds, they just look absolutely sensational. The bikes look great, and they're all shined up, and they're different colors, and the graphics, etc. It was almost a Vinales dominated race. He found his way to the front there within a few laps, and it was like a man possessed. He's come out with a new set of pedals this year and jumped on that bike, and because he was dropping down the field like he had extra weight on, like a far lap with an extra 20 kilos of lead in the saddle there at some stages last year in some races. So yeah, race record speed. Woohoo! Thanks, Paul. You're totally right. And there's probably more to come, Paul, later on in the year, and I can't wait for it. So, and not just that, the whole racing throughout the whole race. At one stage, you could have thrown a blanket over six bikes within probably 3 seconds of each other in first through the sixth, and they were first was fighting second, third was fighting fourth, and fifth was fighting sixth, and they were all within all the stones, a shotgun with each other. So, going through the things, Miller was a little bit disappointing. Probably burned his tyres a bit too early, trying to keep up with the rest, and doesn't know how to conserve it. The other thing that was mentioned as well too is with the bikes. They're going back to a similar situation where Formula One was a few years ago, is that they've got settings like they've had for a while on their handlebars, I'll just in layman's terms, but it's mapping, and it also maps the bike and lets you only go to a certain speed of what your fuel consumption is. So the Ducatis, if they're doing 350, 60 Ks an hour down the straights, and they're going 5, 10 Ks faster than some of the other bikes are, they're ultimately using more fuel. Whereas Suzuki, if they're 5, 10 Ks off the pace or whatever it may be, and conserving their tyres, and they've always been good at that, like I've said, throughout FCY, full course yellow, the last 6 months, they're going to come good. And everyone was doubting Suzuki before the start of the race. Last year's obviously Moto Gp champion Joan Mir just slowly progressed his way through the whole race to the point where he was second on the last lap with 2 corners to go, cut Zarco and Bagnaia for second place, and then ran it wide on the last turn, and then got overrun within a split second of the line. So he was coming second, worked his way all the way through the race. And if you look at the replay, just the highlight, just you watch those last 5 seconds of the race, the poor bugger ended up off the podium. So, yeah, it was just awesome racing. Bagnaia and Zarco upset even the Ducati ride, the factory ride. So the satellite teams are going well. The other thing I just want to quickly mention as well, though, too, not just Vinales, Quattarolo had some good speed and came good, had a bit of a hot spell there towards the end and found some new feet on his tyres. But the Yamahas have got some excellent cornering speed. So with all these different equations and all these different deficiencies and strengths from all the bikes, there's something for everyone in the MotoGP Premier Class this year to watch every single race as they go through the different tracks throughout the year. So it's just, it's going to be time management, it's going to be fuel management, it's going to be strategy, even though they don't have pit stops. It's different rider styles. It's just going to be, I can't wait for another MotoGP race right now.
Well, you won't have to, because of course there is one from the same circuit this weekend, and that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if the conditions are any better. Ducati was clearly badly affected by the wind. That headwind really sort of did cause some problems in terms of their having to dial back that top speed. And Miller, I've heard a lot of I haven't heard it much here, but certainly from overseas, I've seen quite a lot of criticism of Jack Miller, and people saying that he's there's no doubt he's very quick, but they're wondering whether it's going to take him a while to get used to this bike and making sure that the tires last, because his riding style with a bike that's got so much power and so much grunt out of there, that his riding style might be a bit rough on it, and that he's going to be fast but fragile. So
he'll burn himself out.
Yeah, so we'll see how he goes. But it was a fabulous race. There's no reason to believe that this weekend will be any different. And speaking of great races, congratulations to Remy Gardner as well in Moto 2. Fabulous performance, second place. Really showed some talent, as Paul is saying there. Conserving is an art, and it is. I mean, if you can make your tires last, and you can have consistently quick laps, that's what gets you over the line. There's no point like going like an absolute lunatic, sitting fastest lap after fastest lap, and then with about 4 or 5 laps to go, suddenly you've got no tires anymore, and you sort of find yourself going backwards.
Just in Formula One, Bottas there, for example, who didn't really get feature much in the commentary throughout the whole Formula One race, he set the fastest lap on lap 56 of the Formula One, and he hardly got a mention.
Well, they did that on purpose. I mean, they brought him in so that he could get that point, so they could grab that extra point.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And he's starting to throw his weight around a bit. I think he's starting to say, I'll be a number 2, but give me an opportunity to challenge Lewis. He's starting to make ructions.
You know what happened there? Yeah, guess what? We will not be renewing your contract here at the end of this year, Mr. Bottas. We need someone who's going to obey team orders. That's the general team meeting, isn't it? There,
well, I think it would be highly unlikely that we're going to see Bottas back next year anyway. I think that whatever happens, he's probably realising now he's got nothing to lose. If he wants to continue in Formula One after this year, he's got to establish his own a reputation for himself, and so that at the end of the year, if they do decide to get rid of him, that some other team will look across and say, no, we think you're worth taking a punt on, because there's just so many fast kids coming out of the junior formula, and a lot of them are bringing money. Speaking of young kids, we mentioned Remy Gardner. Also, a huge congratulations to Oscar Piastri. Finished in the first position in his second ever Formula 2 race. Unfortunately got taken out, coming together with Dan Ticktum. Lots of people come together with Dan Ticktum. A very popular person, is Dan. Everybody likes to bump into him, but and vice versa. But Oscar did a fabulous job. I mean, his first race in Formula 2, and it's really interesting because I heard a Formula 2 championship preview, and nobody rated Oscar at all. It was like, oh, well, he'll obviously struggle. He's coming straight from Formula 3. This will be a year of discovery. He'll pick up the occasional good result. Might even get a podium. And in his second race, he comes up and last lap challenge, goes past and wins the bloody thing. So I think there's no doubt about it at all now that Oscar has a good deal of talent, and hopefully that will continue. The problem is that they're not back on the track until Monaco in May. Yeah. So he's got quite a wait. I'm trying to get hold of him online for an interview for In Pit Lane. I mean, it's not it's not all that easy, but there's quite a few young Australians I'm trying to catch up with at the moment. Not an Australian, a New Zealander, but he's almost an Aussie. Jackson Evans has been announced that he's going to be driving with another Australian in Matt Campbell in one of the Proton Porsches at the World Endurance Championship. James Allen, a friend of the show, is in action with the European Le Mans Series coming up, and it's good to see him racing overseas. So, and then we've got Alex Peroni, who raced in Formula 3 last year, couldn't get the budget together to move to Formula 2 in Europe, but he's gone over to the United States now, and he's going to be running in Indy Lights. And there's some opportunities for him over there because he's obviously a very talented driver as well. Unfortunately, like Joey Mawson, who we spoke to like a couple of weeks ago on the show, all the talent in the world, but doesn't have the money. It's as simple as that. I mean, unless Australian companies get behind these guys and support them, then we're not going to have that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to interrupt this transmission with a community service announcement. I'd like to congratulate Brett at this stage. With 4 seconds left on the clock, Collingwood is ahead by 1 point over Brisbane, with a Brisbane player having a shot at goal with the siren about to go shortly. So,
thank you. Now we've lost the handful of viewers we've got. Now all turned on the football.
No, I'm joking. It is. It's a few more. There's a few more seconds to go. It's about 9 minutes to go. I'm only kidding. Jess, you can watch us for another 10 more minutes, and then you can flick over. Yeah, well, let's run
now. Speaking about watching something that was supposed to go to air tonight, as I said, unfortunately we didn't go to air. Now the Phillip Island historic stuff. We had, and Keith was on board before talking to us. Keith Linnell, our interview with Keith Linnell about the Brock Commodore. We're looking at the Barry Wise and the March 81A. A few of those guys. We're going to talk to. They'll be on the program next week. So all the stuff from Phillip Island Historic. And also we're going to take a look at John Goulet's new Audi sports sedan. We had a look at that. It was all in bits and pieces, all exposed to the world at the recent sports sedan series launch. And John took us around and basically gave us a look at the ins and outs of that particular car. And it's a really interesting car from a technical point of view. Actually very different underneath from the car that that he's running now. The cars they may end up looking very similar, but they're very, very different cars.
Oh,
So,
can I buy a vowel there, Brett? Something to do with an automatic transmission, maybe? Was it?
No,
I'm just trying to leak. I'm just trying to bum steer a few. That's all. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah, look hard at the footage that Brett took of the roll in the middle of the car. You will see some very innovative intricacies and some innovation.
Yeah, and John discusses that in terms of what are the advantages and the differences. Now, coming up, one thing that was supposed to go to air tonight, in amongst all the other things, was an announcement of something that's coming up, and we'd really like, if you're watching at any stage and you're in Melbourne, as you know, over the years, we've had a lot of music on In Pit Lane. We love getting bands in and all the rest of it because of that. Well, look, rather than be sort of, like going on about, this is what we were supposed to, this is what we announced tonight. It was supposed to be announcing tonight.
Bye, Stuart.
In Pit Lane, live music has been an important part of what we do here. And as we can't get into the studio, well, we found a new home for our live music here on In Pit Lane. Every Wednesday night, starting April the 7th, we're here at the Mr. Boogeyman Bar at 160 Hoddle Street in Collingwood, right next to the Collingwood Town Hall, and we'd love you to join us every single week. Now, this place is rough.
Yes, that is. Thanks to Rautistic for allowing us to film some of their performance at the Boogeyman Bar. That's Wednesday night. We're going to have live music in there. As I said, because we can't get into the studio, we still wanted to have bands, so we decided to find a venue where we could go out and actually film bands in the wild, as it were. And this Wednesday night, April the 7th, at the Mr. Boogeyman Bar at 160 Hoddle Street, Collingwood. If you get there around 7:30, 8 o'clock, our special guest will be Mark Gardner and his band. Mark has been a regular on the program over the years, always been very, very popular, and we've got him along to basically do a feature set. We're going to have, it's not going to be one or two songs, it's going to be about 5 or 6 songs, and we'll also be talking with the guys as well. So if you just want to have a good night out, have a bit of music, and come and have a bit of a chat with us, and a bit of a night out, support local venues, support live music. They've done it really, really tough over the last 12 months, and we would really appreciate it if you'd head out there. It's a Wednesday, but it's not going to finish late and all that. We're going to have it all wrapped up by about 10:30, 11 o'clock at the latest. And well, that's the plan anyway.
Has anyone ordered the wigs yet? Because my hair's not mullet yet. That's all right. I'm just looking at a lot of the crowd there. I haven't got it. I haven't got long hair anymore. I lost in the 80s.
There's a few of us here like that.
Yeah, none of us have, Doc. Some of us don't have any hair at all. Or what we've got is, I've only got 6 left, and 3 of those are loose. So
I'm just thinking, a lot of long hair there, and we're going to look a bit out. Someone better order some wigs for us, I think. But anyway,
it's well, we have to say that we appreciate the Mr. Boogeyman Bar, Jackson, the crew there put up their hand and said, hey, we'd be happy to have you guys along, and we're going to be there. And the long-term plan, not probably for this week, but we've got to see how we go. But the long-term plan is we're going to stream that some of those concerts live on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, and also we've got a new Facebook page being set up as we speak for the Tune Up Melbourne, and we'll give you the links to that, and we'll be live streaming there as well. So that's coming up. Very soon.
It looks loud.
In Pit Lane. It is loud.
Very loud.
Fast cars, loud music. Loud cars, fast music. Whichever way you want to look at it, it's all good.
We might have to yell.
We'll definitely have to yell. Hey, listen, let's not yell anymore. Let's. I think we'll be finished off. We probably exhausted all the things we have to do this weekend. be watching next week on Channel 31 at 8:30. Phillip Island Historic Classic, some fabulous cars, some great stuff, and there'll be a new news. I'll have to, we'll have to do news, but we'll have news from Bathurst and a few other things as well. So
and more Moto GP as well too. Second race.
There will be Moto GP results. What we can show, like with Formula One, we're really limited with what we can cover with Formula One. We actually got a media release, a video news release from Prema for Oscar Piastri, which said, here's some stuff that you can put on your show, and then they sort of pointed out, but you're not allowed to use it. I mean, it's here it is, but YouTube will take you down if you actually use it. So So
thanks for sharing. Anyway. Thanks for sharing and not sharing.
So
poisoned apple.
So thank you. Thanks, Box for there. We'll hopefully see you guys next week. Russell, we'll see you next week as well. If you're heading out to Avalon tomorrow night, it'll be a spectacular night. The sprint cars are always great stuff out there. As someone, I think it was Russell before asking, or it might have been Paul Vanderacker asking about the Nyora on the 24th. No, unfortunately, at this stage, we're not going to be able to do. We're not going to be able to do that. We really would have liked to. Unfortunately, on both occasions that we were ready and prepared and able to do it, it got either rained out or COVID out or whatever. But either way,
we even took time. Some of us even took time off work to be able to go and do Nyora twice.
Yeah, it actually was once again there was a cost involved in that. And April the 24th. Can't say too much about, but April the 24th or around that time. Be looking. There is something else that just around the corner, but I can't make any announcements at this stage. But
fast cars,
very fast cars, very very loud. Okay, we'll see you all next week. So from all of us here at In Pit Lane's Full Course Yellow, thanks for watching it. Remember, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Why should you suffer alone? We'll see you next week on the program. Until then, from all of us here at Full Course Yellow, it's bye for now.